annoyingly, I've just been told that we cannot grow all our own food. But I kind of agree to some extent. But I'll tell you what we can do. We can form a syndicate with others who do well at growing a certain crop, for instance. Maybe your neighbour, who's great at growing potatoes, but you're fantastic at carrots. You can share. That's what we do. We share our crop with our neighbours, and they bring us something in return. The occasional bag hung on the doorknob. A pleasant surprise to wake up to. And that's great for the community spirit. You gain respect with your neighbours. Now, why don't more people try this? I do understand, though, it's not easy if you've never grown anything before because you've been dependent on the supermarkets. But times are changing. It's not as simple as that anymore, no. The cost of living, for instance, that's going through the roof. Now, I've talked about this before on another channel. Sunflower oil, for instance, because of the war in Ukraine. It was €1.49. And now, when I looked yesterday, it's €2.79. It won't be long before it's €5 a litre. Everything is becoming more expensive, not just because of the war, but other political issues too. So maybe we should be looking to grow more food for ourselves, no matter how little it might be. It might be a few tomato plants in a patio container, a pot. You might have to go at doing some vertical gardening. A little bit of lettuce. These are all crops that are easy to grow. Really easy. But if we all did just a little bit, or maybe just 70% even, we would make a difference. Now, food, for instance, as you probably know, it isn't just the cost at the shelf. It's the cost to the environment. It has to be grown. And more often than not, it's grown with heavy machinery. 100 horsepower tractors, etc., turning over the soil again and again and again. Planting that soil again and again and again. The land is dead. No. It makes sense, really, to grow your own to some degree. You might want to go for a full plot, but on the other hand, you might just want to grow a grown bag of tomatoes. But it all makes a difference. The population is high, so that little bit multiplied by the population most certainly would make a difference. So it can't be denied that our life skills need to be revamped. They're somewhat lost. Now, I grew up around a veggie garden. My mother, for instance, used to grow tomatoes every year. French beans and runners, etc. Runner beans. And a few other crops. What she did. Wasn't a huge garden, but she did what she could. And she enjoyed it. It was therapeutic. That it was. I, for one, I grow a bit too much. But that does allow me to share it with others. But also, it's not just for the certain season, no. We can store it. We can bottle it, jar it. That's what we do. And tomatoes, for instance, will last for about 3 years. Let's say, for instance, I don't know, I'm only going to grow tomatoes, my main crop of tomatoes, this year. I'm going to bottle them because I'm going to get way more than I'm ever going to eat. So have got lots of bottles of tomatoes. You know, like canned tomatoes. Well, they'll last for around 3 years or more. Next year, I might decide I'm not going to do so many tomatoes. I'll do more, I don't know, root crops maybe instead. Parsnips, turnips, kohlrabi, carrots, etc. More potatoes. But speak to your neighbours, because maybe they're doing more of a different crop. And if you do a different crop, well, there you've got 2 crops, 3 crops, 4 crops, 5 crops, more crops that you can share. It makes sense to me. But this is all down to life skills that have been lost for some people. We've become too dependent on the supermarkets. That's how I see it. But what life skills are being lost to technology and time pressures? Now, many people are now seeking out the old ways that our parents and grandparents used to live by. Sustainably. Every generation thinks they have found a better way of doing things than other people who came before them. Frankly, I find it quite bad. I think we need to be doing more, in the sense that we need to be growing more for ourselves, becoming more self-sufficient. The United Kingdom, for instance, imports more than 70% of its food. That's not sustainable. And it's proving as such recently. Our dependence on foodstuffs from Ukraine has been, hampered. Scuppered somewhat. Now, every generation thinks they have found a better way of doing things than the people who came before them. It's one reason, teenagers ridicule their parents, don't I know it? And why the contribution of older people is often undervalued. Well, I live in France, and you don't have to go far to see French elderly people in the their gardens, their potagers, digging and preparing their land for their crops. No, not at all. Turnips, such as those. I grow turnips and kohlrabi. Why not? It's lovely sautéed, or even in a stir fry. Don't have to be in a stew, no. But we turn our backs on traditional skills and that knowledge of our forefathers, at our peril. Now, progress really runs in straight lines. And right now there are more, there may be more U-turns ahead that we bargained for. The gradual dawning of the need for more sustainable living has cast old ways in more favourable and indeed fashionable light. You can't get away from it. There's one thing in life that's never going to change. You're going to need to eat. Yeah. It's our fuel. Can't get away from it, no. But the soaring cost of living is a new, pressing reason to count the cost of convenience. Going to the supermarket, buying whatever you need. Food miles. Buying tomatoes that come from Morocco, for instance, when you can grow them yourself. Makes no sense. Especially when you're in season. Now, there are signs of a new appreciation of how our parents, or at least grandparents and great-grandparents, could turn their hands to, creating and repairing. Before life became an ever-quickening circle of buy, throw away and repeat. The trouble is that once these abilities skip a generation or more, and they have, it's much harder to revive them. But there is, a growing consensus for sustainability. Many young, including members of my family, have found it not just therapeutic, but also rewarding Granted, it seems there's, well, an how-to YouTube video to almost any conceivable human endeavour. But that's a poor substitute for the real life. Parent-to-child transfer to expertise. What life skills are being lost to technology and time pressures? Now, self-sufficiency may be out of the question for many, but how many families have lost the ability to grow their own food? Or at least the inclination to cultivate even the occasional contribution to the dinner table? I don't know many people that can. Well, in 2008, the positive response then was, well, the recession thing. We've got to save some money. Well, in that downturn, people found themselves with more time and less money. This time it was more about lockdowns. Pandemic, for instance. People stayed at home. They had more ability to grow their own food. Less money. Well, were attracted to the idea of growing food. If only they could learn how to do it. Yes, there's many YouTube tutorial video that there is. But you just got to get down and gritty with it. Give it a go. Your first year might be a bit of a disaster. Your second year will be less so. And you will learn. I did. Now, people feeling that we need to do more, and food is a great opportunity in our daily lives. We can't get away from it. We need it. Like I said, it's our fuel. Now, we can make more sustainable choices. 3 times a day. Breakfast, dinner, and tea. By growing our own food. And oh my God, it tastes so much better. You can't compare a tomato that you picked from your own greenhouse, or just from the garden, than one that you would have bought from the supermarket. There's no comparison. One has flavour and tender skins. The other has not. Now, our current surge in interests is more akin to the recession of 2008. Again, it is the food security concern. The UK, for instance, has no food security. It imports almost everything. 70%. That's a lot of food. Now, a general sense that when the pillars of society are wobbling a bit, people tend to latch on to things that make them feel more in control. Things that they're comfortable around. Well, quite frankly, one thing that makes me feel comfortable is the fact that I grow and cook. And it makes me feel more secure that I can do so. It makes me feel secure that I have a larder full of food. Food that will last many years if we don't eat it. That's my food security. For me and my dear wife. Take, for instance, the recent shortage of peppers, tomatoes and lettuce salad leaves, attributed to a perfect storm of issues. I'm not going to get into the politics, no. But one, for instance, is, well, the rain in Spain. Falls mainly on the plain. Well, there's not enough of it. There's the rising fuel costs. I think climate change and the increasingly chaotic world that we find ourselves in. One solution is that tick those boxes, the correct boxes of supply and sustainability and saving money, is to grow your own. And you'd be amazed the difference that could make to you and your families. But many people, well, they seem afraid of giving it a go. Looking foolish, maybe. Silly. I know I do. I make mistakes every year, but so what? I have more successes than mistakes. And every mistake is an education. I learnt something. Now, there are some basic skills you need, for sure. But these can be taught. They can be learnt. Easily. Either by yourself, or maybe you have a neighbour who has a garden and has a lot of success. They could put you on the straight and narrow, so to speak. The good news is that you'll be able to produce food even in your first years. When you're trying to figure it all out. It is a learning curve. So why don't you just give it a go? And help yourself, but also the planet. And don't forget, the planet sustains you and your friends. So every little helps. Or was it Asda? Oh, I wonder. So why don't you, before I go, click like and subscribe. And maybe that little bell icon. Because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in your pocket every time I upload another video. And I do apologise, my dog, who happens to be down here, hey you, is whining. Oh, what? I'm trying to record this video. Come at you. Go say hello. Yeah. Go say hello, Wally. What's so stressy? Yeah? What's so stressy? Why are you so stressy? Oh, thank you. He's a lovely little boy, though, but he's getting quite annoying. Anyway, I'm going to say ta-ta.